Salve. Greetings. Good evening. Salve. Greetings. Good evening. Bonsoir. Guten Abend. Buonasera. Buenas tardes. Namaste. Namaskaram. Namaskar. Namaskar. This is the 15th of August of the Gregorian year 2015, and in my country it is about 9:35 p.m. or 21:35 hours of the Indian Independence Day, 15th of August of the Gregorian year 2020. It is indeed the anniversary of some 74th Independence Day of India, which declared herself an independent country on the 15th of August of the year 1947. And 3 years later, she declared herself a republic on the 26th of January of the Gregorian year 1950. But there is another incident which took place, and indeed a very important incident, prior to our Republic Day and almost 3 years after our Independence Day. This was the day on which the Indian Constitution was promulgated, which was promulgated on the 26th of November of the Gregorian year 2000, I beg your pardon, of the Gregorian year 1949, only 2 months prior to India's declaring herself a republic. According to our Constitution, all citizens of this country are on an equal footing. And indeed, all our systems lawfully rest upon the Constitution of our country, provided, of course, each and every single one of us who claim to be a citizen of India honors that Constitution, endeavors to adhere to that Constitution and the articles which elaborate the rules and regulations, indeed, without trying to override the Constitution of India as a whole. The Indian flag consists of 4 colors, which is symbolized by this particular band which I'm wearing today. The saffron, which should be on top, but since it is difficult for me thus to exhibit, I am putting it on my right, showing its importance, supposed to be the color of sacrifice, self-sacrifice. The color in between white represents purity. Purity in the sense without being corrupted, without being contaminated by any kind of corruption, without allowing the country to be marked and marred by something which is wrong in the sight of the Constitution of India as a whole. The color green is supposed to represent the color of valor. Perhaps in the Western country, green represents hope. And we should not deny that all human beings hope for something, and we should not be deprived of that kind of hope. But it does represent the color of valor or bravery. And the blue, which is represented here, perhaps it should be a little darker in color, supposed to represent loyalty. Loyalty of every single citizen of India towards her country, India, towards, I beg your pardon, I mean his or her country, India, towards her, the country, the motherland, India, towards the Constitution of India, towards the systems based upon that Constitution. As I once said on a Republic Day, the separations of power, like a tripod stool, which can only stand on a smooth floor if all the footing of the stool are well and equally lengthened and the floor is smooth enough. The separations of power of the so-called legislation, executive bodies, and indeed the honorable judiciary, as it is called in our country, so-called the Republic of India. But I sigh and say, alas, we fail to honor this. I indeed, as I said time and time again, come from a family of freedom fighters. My late grandfather, having served as a physician in the Indian Army, then controlled by the government of Great Britain, during the First World War taking place between the Gregorian years 1914 and 1918, and being stationed inter alia in England and in France and in other countries, returned to India and joined the Indian Congress non-violent movement headed by late Bidhan Chandra Roy, who became one of our chief ministers and perhaps the most desirable chief minister a state could ever have within the Union of India. But my grandfather, along with many other freedom fighters, had a go. They sacrificed themselves with an earnest desire that they would see their country not merely being liberated of a foreign power or foreign powers as a whole, but also liberated from all kinds of discrimination. They had hoped and dreamed, if I may use the expression, within speech marks or inverted commas, that their country would be a country which would be an example for the rest of the world as a whole. Even the race known as the race human, or humankind as a whole. A country would be free of prejudice of every kind. A country that would be free of class discrimination, race discrimination, language discrimination, and indeed of color discrimination. But are we really those kind of citizens which they were dreaming of? I doubt. Indeed, I query. I question my own self and sigh again, and pause and sigh and say, alas, their dreams have been shattered as my own dreams. In this country, I regret to admit, slavery exists illegally, but far more intensely, far more vividly, far more actively than ever before anywhere in the world. I wanted to be a proud citizen of this country, but with tears in my eyes, I admit I'm ashamed. All the efforts made by my family members, including my late grandfather, and his sons and daughters, have come to total nullity. They have become totally void. Today, millions of people are concerned about COVID-19, the viral infection caused by coronavirus. But too many of us fail to recognize the other dangers that our fellow citizens of this country and elsewhere in the world, the global citizens as a whole, too many of them are being trafficked, transferred from one place to another illegally, transported in vehicles like cattle or even chattel or instruments or objects, and sold into illegal slavery. These include not merely other human beings as a whole, but also, particularly, women, children, even babies. The most innocent population of the world, or perhaps the most vulnerable one today. And this is because we are too indifferent about others. This is because we fail to consider their problems. This is because we are too reluctant to recognize the danger to which they're exposed. My most dear, my most respected friends, while extending you my most cordial, heartfelt, and respectful greetings on this particular day, I beg you most sincerely to come forward and combat such heinous crimes. Please come forward. Save our fellow citizens. Save your fellow citizens who are endangered to be trafficked, sold, enslaved illegally, even though they're totally innocent. I call upon all my fellow citizens of this country to put aside all kinds of discrimination, whether such discriminations have arisen due to our blindness about the fact that we are all one race called the human race, but to take up the true weapon of justice and equity against the crimes which endanger our country and our world as a whole. All of us need each other. We cannot isolate or alienate ourselves from the rest of the world. Instead of saying our country is first, let us say, the human race to which we belong is first. And the true human race rests upon true humanity. An indisputable fact which none of us can reasonably deny. Let us exercise true humanity in service of all those who are exposed to such danger of grave inhumanity. Even the evils of such shameful crimes. Evils arising, or I should say vice versa, the crimes which arise from such evils. If we allow our fellow citizens, whether they're women, children or babies, to be sold out into illegal slavery, we cannot be proud of being citizens of our country. Nor can we be proud of being global citizens. And I sigh again and venture to add, nor can we be proud of being true human beings. Unless and until we stand up and speak out and speak up on behalf of those who cannot or are too afraid to stand up, speak up and speak out on their own, we deny ourselves before true humanity as a whole. So I beg you once again, come forward. Fight the existing evils along with the existing plague. But remember, we cannot exist without each other and unless we fight for each other lawfully, justly, befitting our own constitutions of each of our countries. And indeed, the Charter of the United Nations Organization, the international law as a whole. I thank you once again for watching this video. Indeed, my gratitude would be far greater if you came forward and fought against all kinds of evil, including the heinous crimes of human trafficking and illegal slavery in this country of ours and elsewhere in the world. Save the babies against inhumanity, injustice, oppression, abuse. Save the children against all kinds of wrong, particularly against child slavery. Save the women against oppression and domestic violence, and save our world against all such evils. Thank you. God bless. Jai Hind.